Hi, it's me, Nancy Harkness, with Writer Unedited number 55. Just me sitting at my writing desk. No fancy makeup, no fancy backgrounds, chatting about whatever pops into my head this morning or the day before. If you have questions, put them in the comments and I will try to answer them. If you miss a live, I have them all up on my YouTube channel, and I will put a link in the comments to that after our live today. So nice to have you here. And who's here? Gail is here. Yay, Gail. I am so glad you came this time. I know you were trying to. Wonderful to have you here. Okay, so what was I going to talk about? So Sally always asks me about my shirts, so I wanted to show you this one. See all the pretty flowers? Funny story about this shirt. I have on my back terrace a lantana bush in a pot. And lantana bushes, in case you don't know, have very bright orange and red flowers, similar to the shirt. And they attract hummingbirds. So I like to go and sit on my back patio, the new one, and commune with the hummingbirds, particularly in the late afternoon. They tend to come by. Although I don't know, I haven't seen them in a while. I guess it's getting too cold for them, which is sad. So a couple of days ago, last week, I was wearing this shirt and there was a hummingbird at the lantana shrub, which is at the other end of the patio from my kitchen slider. So I walk out of my kitchen slider and close it behind me, and all of a sudden a hummingbird comes zooming up to me, stops literally right in front of my face, and just hovers there for a minute. And I said, well, hello. I mean, he was so close. It was a little scary because they're very long beaks and they're feisty little critters. And then he zoomed off again. And I was very puzzled by this encounter until I looked down at my shirt and realized it had exactly the same colors as the lantana shrub. So clearly he thought I was going to offer him some nectar. So I always think of this as my hummingbird shirt now, which I find amusing. So what else was I going to talk about? Yes. Well, Sally suggested I talk about naps, but because I find naps one of life's great luxuries as an adult. But I thought that would quite literally put you to sleep, pun intended. So I decided not to do that. And instead, I'm going to talk about cover models, because the truth is I am currently looking for a cover model for Raoul's book, because I am that confident that I will eventually get it written, although more on that later. Sally says, aha, I wondered if you were wearing the shirt to attract hummingbirds. Next time you have to figure out how to video that. Do you know how fast hummingbirds fly, Sally? I think you do. There is no videoing hummingbirds unless they're hovering around the bush. So anyway, back to cover models. So it probably sounds like a lot of fun to stare at good-looking men, screen after screen after screen of them, but it's not. It gets to be boring, weirdly enough, and my eyes start to blur. So I just thought I'd explain, because people always say, oh, do you get to meet the gorgeous cover models on your books? And the answer to that is no. I just get to look at a bunch of photographs on my computer. I don't know their names. I don't know anything about them, but that they are photographs on my computer. Very disappointing, right? Someday I would like to meet a cover model, but so far, no luck. Actually, that's not true. I met a cover model years ago, not my cover model on any of my books, at a Romantic Times convention. I don't know if anybody remembers those. They were pretty wild, and they had lots of cover models. And this young man was wearing chain mail over his bare skin, because that was his role, I guess. And I remember stopping him and saying, is that comfortable, wearing chain mail over your bare skin? Because, knights wore cloth underneath it. And he said, hey, actually, it's not so bad. He said, it's actually better than a lot of the costumes, because at least I'm fully clothed. But he said, the one thing I have learned is you have to hang it over like the radiator the night before to warm it up, because he said, if you just put chainmail on cold, he said, it's really cold. It just made me laugh. He was a very nice young man, and very nice looking, of course, in his chainmail. So anyway, It's the one cover model I've met. People have met Fabio. I never did that. So anyway, I wanted to talk about cover models. So my cover designer is Eileen Carey, and the reason I'm holding this up is that this is the first book cover she designed for me. This was one of my Montlake books, so I didn't have any input into choosing this model. But I have to tell you, the minute I saw the concept for this, with this basic concept, she tweaked it a little bit, I just thought, this is perfect. It was absolutely perfect for the book. So I was so impressed. And then, so she did all of the consultants. The hacker, we had to tweak a little bit. It didn't, the first attempts didn't come out so well, but eventually I was pretty happy with that one. And finally, the agent, I just loved. Again, first time out, I was like, oh, perfect. Absolutely perfect. So when I started, and these were all Montlake books, so Amazon Publishing chose Eileen as my designer and worked with her. We all worked together on the designs. So when I started self-publishing my Royal Kaleva books, I knew I wanted to work with Eileen if she was available. And luckily, she does do freelance. So she did both of the Royal Kaleva covers, and I want to show you the pictures, how they all started. It's kind of fun. See what else. Sally says, haha, those RTs. Yeah, they were pretty wild, weren't they? And Gail says, I think you'd have to find one that matches Royal's personality too, but fun. Yeah, absolutely. And that's the hard part, is finding one that matches like my vision of the character and one that conveys who he is visually. And that's actually way harder than it sounds, and frankly less fun than it sounds, because you just have to look at so many. So I thought I would show you. So this is the original photograph that I found and purchased for Royal Kaleva Gabrielle. And I don't know if you can see, I'm going to bring it up closer. So he has a lot less hair. He has tattoos. He has ripped jeans. And he is not holding a guitar. So the magic that Eileen Carey wrought was to turn him into this, where no tattoos, no ripped jeans, and he's holding a guitar. So, and she also, lightened him up a little bit. I don't know why Scott is fussing at me. So there are the two side by side to give you an idea. Compare and contrast. As you can see, he's got longer hair. Pretty cool, huh? The magic of Photoshop. And then, of course, the actual cover itself with the typography. And she's really talented at that too. And of course the shield for Kaleva. So then here's Luis. He had almost as much of a transformation. So that's the cover. This is so he's a silver fox, right? So I was looking all over for silver foxes. I did not find one. This guy, you can see, has brown hair. And he's holding just your average chair. And he has a black tie. Oh dear. The cats are having a spat. Kittens, stop. I don't know what's going on with them. They've been like furry little lunatics the last couple of weeks. I think it must be the change in temperature, maybe. Okay, so she transformed this brown-haired guy holding just your average chair into a king, standing in front of a throne with silver hair and a silver beard and looking very kingly, in my opinion. I happen to love this. And of course, the cover is here. And you can't, I don't know if you can see it, but you can see his hand actually on the spine. So she even got that in. It's pretty cool, right? Kind of amazing. And again, beautiful typography, which is, it's very branded. Branding is so important with book covers. So I thought you guys might want to vote. Now I am looking for Raoul's. Oh, so another thing I wanted to mention is the difference in prices. So Gabrielle's book, this image was really expensive. The guy, the cover model, very expensive. I loved it though. To me it was perfect. This guy cost me basically nothing because I have a subscription to this photo website. So I just, downloaded it because it was part of the subscription. So it's interesting, the price range. So, so I started looking for possibilities for Raoul, and it was very interesting. So I looked at my cheap place where I have the subscription. I looked at my expensive place where I got Gabrielle, and I found, the differences in pricing. The other really interesting thing is I looked at another website that I hadn't used before, and I don't know, the faces were just, they were really good looking, but they were bothering me for some reason. They were like almost too perfect. Guess what? They were AI. And I suddenly noticed if you hovered over the photograph, it would say AI in the corner. So luckily they let you filter so you can get rid of the AI ones, because they didn't look right. I could see using them for like fantasy or paranormal, because those are not, you have to create completely imaginary characters for those anyway. But for a contemporary romance, I just thought they don't look real. And I thought it was funny that they kept bothering me, and I didn't even realize why until I hovered over the AI, hovered over the image. So let's see. Sally says, very cool. Yeah, photoshopping is way cool, isn't it? And Gail says, you all have high stakes to meet. Yeah, because, even though they claim you can't judge a book by its cover, in fact, people judge by books by their covers all the time. You go on Amazon and, there's the little picture of the book, and sure, I confess, I have bought books just for their cover upon occasion. Now, I always read the blurbs and stuff, but sometimes the cover just gets me, and I just want to know who that person is. So I'm going to show you some of my possibilities, and these are far from final for Raoul's book. And I'm going to ask you to vote, okay? You can vote for which one you think would be the best. Okay, here's photo number 1. And keep in mind, photoshopping can darken his hair, change the color of his tie, trim his hair a bit too. It's a little long for Raoul, in my opinion. But I liked his, well, number 1, he's very good looking. And I liked his sort of position, the body language I thought was good in that one. Here's number 2. And I kind of liked his attitude. Oops, sorry. It's hard to get this in exactly the right place. I don't know what's with the toothpick. Would have to get rid of the toothpick, obviously. But again, you can do a lot with photoshopping. And I might also, I don't know about the lock of hair. I can't decide if I like it or not, but you think about that. So that's number 2. And here's number 3, who just, so the one drawback of him, I love his face. I think he's gorgeous. The one drawback with this guy is that there aren't very many photos of him, and most of them are just like this, sort of head and shoulders. You don't get a lot of body language, and that can make it harder for the cover designer to work with. But I do love his face. So, which one do you think I should put on the cover? Which one of those 3, which one do you think would be the best for Raoul? Or you are also welcome to say, I don't like any of them, because I'm not sure how much, I can tell you which one I'm leaning toward, but first you have to vote. Nobody's voting yet. Come on, you gotta vote. I want to know which one you like. So we'll go back. Here's 1. Here's 2. I liked his kind of sassiness, this guy's. And here's 3. He's just sort of classically beautiful. So what do you think? Which one do you vote for? 1, 2, or 3? And remember the magic of Photoshop. So they don't have to be exact. All right, nobody's voting. Come on, guys. All right, here we go. Gail says because of body language, I'd say number 1. Don't like number 2. And number 3 does need some body language. See, no, you're helpful. That was really helpful, because I'm kind of leaning the same way. Sally said number 2 is my least favorite. Number 1 and number 3 depends on Raoul. Number 3 looks like the youngest and most fragile. Number 1 may be 2 in charge. Ah, interesting. Okay, well, I would like to thank you all for eliminating number 2 because number 2 is very expensive. He's from the Gabrielle website. All right, so I don't have to spend money on him. Yay! Oh, so here's another, just to give you some more to think about. This is the same guy as number 1, but just a different kind of photo to make it maybe more even. So, tell me what you think of him in that picture. But you guys were very helpful, actually. You kind of confirmed what I was thinking. And also, the nice thing about this guy, he's from the website where I have the subscription, so he won't be unbelievably expensive. Yay! Always a good thing. And I find also interesting enough because what I do is, you know, as I go through the pictures, I favorite them and they put them in it puts them in a, you know, like a save folder. And I find myself continually coming back to this guy, which makes me think maybe he's the right one. Let's see. Sally says, hold the second number 1 up at the same time as number 3. I can do that. Okay, here's the second number 1 and number 3. Can you see them? It's hard for me to tell if I've got them adjusted correctly. There. So 3, the second number 1. Same guy as number 1. And yes, Gail, I agree, number 1's hair is too long, but we can fix that. Not a problem. Get rid of the curls. Because Raoul does not have long hair. Of course, it's ironic that I had to add long hair to Gabrielle because he does have long hair. Go figure. But again, Photoshop. Yay. Gail says number 3 seems young. I know Raoul isn't that old, but okay, I kind of thought that too, Gail. He seems a little, as Sally says, he even seems maybe a little fragile. Sally says probably that number 1, same sort of nose features, but number 3 may look too young. And Carol says the second number 1. Oh, hi, Carol. Nice to have you here. Thanks for voting. Okay, so people like this guy. Yay. I like him too, actually. They said he's the one I kept coming back to, even though I was still looking. And Sally said the second number 1. That's what I figured. I figured that out. Okay. You guys are good. Thank you. That's actually tremendously helpful. It will save my eyes too because I was getting really tired of staring at all these guys. I know. It sounds fun. Really not. Weirdly enough. Okay, so what else is going on here? So, since everybody was kind enough to sympathize with my plantar fasciitis talk last week, I thought I'd just tell you, I did get a cortisone shot from the podiatrist last Friday, and it unfortunately was not like a magic bullet, like when they do it in my knee and it just sort of feels better almost immediately. But it is slowly getting better, very slowly. So I'm slightly less discouraged and in pain than I was last week. And I'm seeing the podiatrist again this Friday. So hopefully she'll be able to help me out. The only weird thing that's happening now is my little toe on the foot that has the plantar fasciitis is getting like weirdly numb. I don't know what's going on with that. I keep changing my shoes and, oh God, it's a mess. Anyway, nobody wants to hear about my health problems, except that they have been affecting Raoul's book. It's just distracting, right, to be in pain. I'm sure others have experienced this. It's not just me. And I actually did work on the scene that I was sort of in the middle of when all the health things started happening, between Raoul and Erica. And I kind of worked through it, and then I decided to add some paragraphs at the end to sort of finish up, right, how do you close out the scene? So I had to figure out how to close out the scene. So I decided to bring in Luis and Eve, the king and queen, who are now happily married. And that was, you know, I thought that would be a lot of fun. And so I wrote it, and then when I went back and rewrote it the next day, I realized I had left out practically all the most important elements that I should have put in. So I decided maybe I needed to not write at this moment until I get the health stuff under better control, so my brain is not constantly worrying about, you know, my foot or something else. So So I'm going to wait until my brain is a little more settled. So that's why I decided to start looking at pictures of guys, because I thought, well, at least I can start working on the cover, because that doesn't require writing, right? And so that's what I did. So basically, that's all I got, folks. Anybody have questions? So let's see. Sally says he looks like someone. I'll have to meditate on it. He looks like someone? You mean like someone famous or something? So I guess the other question is, does he look sort of like, I guess he doesn't have to look like Gabrielle. So, what do you think? Not really, does he? Oh well. Sally says, do they tell you who the models are? No, they do not. They tell you the photographer is sometimes, but I have no idea who the models are. I'm assuming because they're on this website, well, this guy, because this guy's on this website, that it's just, it's deposit photos. It's a giant website that, again, you buy a package deal and you can download like 100 photos for almost nothing. So I don't think any of these people are famous, although maybe, it's possible they get famous, but you know who I bet he reminds me of? Bradley Cooper. Just occurred to me. I think it's the hair too. He looks a little bit like Bradley Cooper, the actor. Don't you guys think? Hold him up again. I think he looks a little bit like Bradley Cooper. But he's not. Actually, I think he's better looking than Bradley Cooper. So, any other questions? No? No questions? No more votes? Thank you all for voting. As I said, you really are very helpful for, what's the word? Solidifying my own thoughts. And also, you didn't hate them, right? You didn't hate this guy. You thought he'd be a good Raoul? Because you're allowed to say you don't think he'd be good. That's fine, too. All right. So I don't see any more comments. Let me just try here. Here we go. Gail says, hope you feel more betterer soon. Good live. Have a great week. Thanks, Gail. So glad you stopped in. I'm so glad you jumped off your treadmill. It was very kind of you to stop exercising just to chat with me. I appreciate that. Sally, thank you for being here. Carol, thank you for being here and voting. So good to see you guys. See you next week.